Are there really gods in this world? When ancient people looked up at the endless starry sky, what exactly were they afraid of? Next, I am going to help you crack the underlying code of human civilization and reveal the 8 most influential top-tier gods in human history. First up is Ra the sun, god from ancient Egypt. Imagine back in the ancient era of 2600 BC, in the middle of an endless vast desert. The greatest threat to human survival was the endless darkness, and Ra was the absolute overlord who brought the light right on time every single day. His image was deeply burned into people's minds, sporting a proud falcon head, wearing a blinding solar disk, wrapped with a deadly cobra, ready to strike at any moment. This was literally the ultimate totem of supreme power in ancient Egypt. According to the mythology, he awoke from the stagnant primordial waters of the universe. Not only did he create air and water, he also spawned the entire Egyptian pantheon in one breath. But he wasn't some laid-back god who just sat on his throne enjoying life. He was an absolute battle maniac. Every single night, Ra would personally steer his solar bark into the creepy and terrifying underworld to engage in brutal hand-to-hand combat with Apep, a ridiculously massive serpent of chaos. This giant snake had one goal: to devour the sun and plunge the world into eternal darkness. Only if Ra won this vicious battle every night would the sun rise as usual the next day. This was the ancient Egyptians' most fundamental understanding of divine order. However, this sun god also had moments where he completely lost his temper. As he grew older and realized humans on Earth were becoming arrogant and disobedient, he didn't choose forgiveness. Instead, he directly sent his own daughter, a ruthless lion-headed goddess, who went into indiscriminate slaughter mode. The scene became incredibly bloody and completely out of control. Eventually, even Ra himself couldn't stand to watch, so he had to dye a massive amount of beer blood red to trick this goddess of slaughter into getting dead drunk, barely saving humanity from extinction. He was both the loving father who gave life to all things, and the tyrant who could destroy the world at any moment when order was broken. Now that we are done with ancient Egypt, let's turn our eyes to the mystical East to check out the big boss of creation in Hinduism, Brahma. As one of the Trimurti, the 3 main deities of Hinduism, Brahma's grand entrance was incredibly badass. Myths say he was born from a giant golden egg floating in the vast universe, or that he bloomed from a lotus flower growing out of the navel of another major god, Vishnu. His appearance was extremely bizarre. He had 4 heads, 4 faces, and 4 muscular arms, holding a water pot representing creation, a string of beads symbolizing time and meditation, a scripture representing supreme knowledge, and a lotus flower symbolizing purity. Logically speaking, as the absolute creator of the entire universe, he should receive the most intense worship on earth. But the incredibly weird thing is, in modern India, you can barely find anyone who specifically worships him. The current universe is in the stages of maintenance and destruction. Praying to him has no practical benefit or meaning, so this once almighty creator, God, was reduced to the most invisible background worker in the divine realm. The next god stepping up to the plate might have a name that sounds a bit clunky and unfamiliar to you, but he secretly and profoundly influenced all subsequent monotheistic religions in the world. He is the supreme god of Zoroastrianism, Ahura Mazda. This is probably the oldest and most hardcore monotheistic faith in human history. Unlike gods in other myths who love to fight and are full of human flaws, Ahura Mazda is an abstract existence with absolutely no physical form. He wasn't born from anywhere. He is eternity itself. He represents pure wisdom, absolute truth, and dazzling light. His worldview setup is extremely straightforward. He literally split the universe in 2 in a brutal fashion. One half is his goodness and order, the other half is darkness and lies brought by the evil god Angra Mainyu. These 2 extreme forces clash endlessly and insanely in the universe. But the most badass thing about Ahura Mazda is he didn't just use his divine power to one-shot his opponent. Instead, he boldly handed the power of choice over to puny humans. He gifted humanity the most precious thing, free will, letting you choose for yourself whether to stand on the side of light or darkness. Every good thought, good word, and good deed of yours adds heavy leverage for the ultimate victory of the light. This absolute dualism of good and evil, and the ahead of its time concept of a final judgment, directly laid the most solid and unshakable ideological foundation for later religions like Judaism, Christianity, and even Islam. Now that we are done with highly abstract philosophy, let's look at the most down-to-earth and gossip-filled pantheon in history, the king of the ancient Greek gods, Zeus. This big boss who controls lightning is absolutely the ultimate top-tier celebrity of the mythological world. His rise to power is like an incredibly bloody Hollywood epic blockbuster, because his dad, the Titan King Cronus, was terrified of being overthrown. He swallowed every single baby his wife gave birth to alive. Zeus barely survived, only because his mom swapped him for a rock. He laid low and slowly grew up in a dark cave on the island of Crete. Once he came of age, he pulled off an epic comeback, forcing his brutal dad to vomit up all his swallowed siblings. Then he led them all in the apocalyptic Titanomachy, throwing a bunch of ancient gods into the terrifying abyss of Tartarus, and successfully securing the top seat on Mount Olympus. As the absolute kingpin of heaven, Zeus held the most deadly thunderbolts, maintaining justice and the running order of the entire universe. But he had a fatal weakness that the whole universe knew about. He was incredibly, ridiculously unfaithful. Every other day, he would turn into different animals and descend to Earth to aggressively hit on mortal girls and various goddesses, leaving behind a massive squad of demigod hero bastards like Hercules, triggering countless disasters and divine palace dramas. Even though Zeus's private life was a total mess and heavily criticized, in the eyes of ordinary ancient Greeks, he was still the absolute patron. If anyone dared to disrespect a guest or break a sacred oath, Zeus's lightning would strike them down instantly to teach them a lesson. As the giant wheel of time continues to roll forward, we welcome a god who completely altered the course of Western civilization, the core master of Judaism and Christianity, Yahweh, completely different from previous gods who had physical features and fell in love. Yahweh has no origin, no prequel. He wasn't born from any material, because he himself is the ultimate cause of all existence. When Moses, trembling in fear, asked for his name at the burning bush, he only gave one incredibly badass and historically earth-shattering answer: I am that I am. This phrase established his supreme godhood, transcending all human dimensions. He created the entire vast universe out of nothing in 6 days, and rested peacefully on the seventh. He established an incredibly ancient sacred covenant with the mortal Abraham. He brought down the terrifying 10 plagues and literally split the Red Sea, yanking the tormented Israelites out of cruel Egyptian slavery. And amidst thunder, he decreed the famous 10 Commandments carved in stone. He never showed himself as any statue or specific physical form, because he is the omnipresent, omniscient, and omnipotent master of the universe. Not only does he control natural laws like wind, rain, and thunder, he is also the ultimate absolute standard for all human morality and justice. In the massive Christian system that developed later, through the incredibly profound concept of the Trinity, he sent the Son Jesus down personally to a world full of suffering, completing the grandest loop of salvation in human history. Today, billions of people around the globe follow the moral laws he laid down. His influence has long been deeply branded into the marrow of human civilization. Now, let's wrap our coats tight and turn our eyes to the freezing cold of Scandinavia to meet an incredibly tragic, incredibly insane, tough guy, God, the All-Father of Norse mythology, Odin. If you think all gods live a pampered life, high up on a pedestal, Odin will absolutely tear your preconceived notions to shreds. He often disguised himself as a one-eyed old man, wearing a beat-up hat and a gray cloak, wandering all over the mortal realm, alone. The reason he only has one eye is to gain ultimate wisdom. He didn't hesitate to gouge out his own eye while he was fully awake. He tossed it into Mimir's well of wisdom without a second thought. To completely unlock the ultimate power of the mysterious runes. He even hung himself upside down from the giant world tree for 9 full days, without food or water, enduring raging storms and the agonizing pain of a spear. He was a war fanatic who craved knowledge and glorified combat. He was always accompanied by 2 sacred ravens, representing thought and memory. They gathered the most highly classified intel for him from all over the world. Unlike those gods who enjoyed endless lifespans, Odin was aware of a despairing prophecy. Ragnarok was inevitably coming, and all the gods would die brutally in that final battle. But he didn't choose to accept his fate and simply lay down. Instead, he frantically handpicked the bravest fallen warriors on mortal battlefields, having the Valkyries bring their souls to the magnificent hall of Valhalla, training and slaughtering each other madly during the day, chugging mead and feasting on meat at night, doing absolutely everything to prepare for that apocalyptic battle destined to destroy everything. Odin never demanded that humans kneel on the ground and pray blindly. He only admired those full of fearless courage who dared to bleed and sacrifice. This incredibly hardcore Viking spirit of fighting to the death still makes our blood boil in countless pieces of literature and movies today. Next, let's cross the continents to an eastern island nation to unveil the core god of Japanese Shintoism, the mysterious Amaterasu. Unlike many mythologies with exclusively male-dominated sun god systems, Amaterasu is an incredibly elegant sun goddess wielding absolute power. The story of her birth is full of intense Eastern fantasy vibes. After her father, the primordial god Izanagi, escaped back from the underworld, he washed his face in the water to purify himself. And when he washed his left eye, Amaterasu was born just like that. The moment she was born, she shined brilliantly and illuminated the entire universe, and was directly appointed by her father as the supreme ruler of Takamagahara. The most widely circulated and famous myth about her actually sounds like a soap opera. Her younger brother, the storm god Susanoo, was insanely hot-tempered, causing trouble everywhere. He ran into her sacred halls to cause massive destruction. Amaterasu felt wronged, and in a fit of anger, she hid inside a mountain cave. She even hauled over a massive rock to completely block the entrance. Now the whole world collapsed, and without the sun, it plunged into freezing darkness. All sorts of monsters and evil spirits started running rampant. To coax this sulking goddess back out, 8 million gods threw an over-the-top party. Goddesses danced crazily outside, while everyone else roared with laughter. They hung a stunningly brilliant mirror, the Yata no Kagami, on a tree outside. Amaterasu heard it was lively, so she pushed the rock aside and peeked out. She saw her own dazzling face in the mirror and was stunned for a second. A god of strength grabbed her, and the world finally regained its light. This story sounds wonderfully human, but Amaterasu's status is absolutely supreme. The imperial family claims they are direct descendants of the grandson she sent to Earth. This sacred bloodline theory has deeply bound Japanese political power and public faith. She doesn't require humans to follow dozens of strict, tedious dogmas. She emphasizes the harmonious coexistence between humans and nature and a reverence for all. Finally, we are going to talk about an absolute true God with a global believer base, the sole master of Islam, Allah. Before Islam was born, the word Allah was used by tribes to refer to the supreme deity, but it wasn't until the 7th century, when the Prophet Muhammad received his revelations, that Allah's exclusive status as the sole absolute master of the universe was established. Allah has absolutely no specific physical image, and Islam strictly forbids depicting him, because the incredibly limited and puny human brain cannot imagine his magnificent existence. He completely transcends the 2 basic concepts of time and space, truly having no beginning and no end, entirely self-sufficient. The Quran uses 99 sacred names to describe his supreme attributes, like the most merciful, the most just, and the absolute creator. Allah's power is an absolute monopoly. No other gods, angels, or mortals can share a shred of his power. He has no partners and no children, only an absolute and indisputable will. Even a single dead leaf, falling in the darkest corner of the universe, is entirely under his precise control and master plan. Muslims, through the strict and disciplined 5 pillars, namely faith and prayer, almsgiving, fasting, and pilgrimage, fully integrate reverence into their daily rhythm. Whether it is the 5 unshakable devout prayers every single day, or the absolute restraint of fleshly desires during Ramadan, they are all about repeatedly confirming the oneness and supremacy of Allah. Although outsiders have raised philosophical questions about this absolute predestination, for over 1 billion steadfast believers around the globe, Allah is the ultimate embodiment of absolute justice and endless mercy, and the most indestructible cornerstone of their spiritual world. After blazing through these 8 gods who have shaken human history, have you noticed an incredibly brutal yet utterly fascinating fact? The faces and tempers of the gods often reflect humanity's extreme fear and their ultimate desires when facing cruel nature back then. Whether it is the tough guy Odin demanding blood and sacrifice, or Yahweh emphasizing absolute moral law throughout the long years, they have profoundly shaped our cultural DNA. So now, here comes the most thrilling question. If there really is a parallel universe out there, and you had to time travel into one of these systems, which god would you choose to be ruled by? Would you go to Greek mythology to experience Zeus's crazy gossip, or go to Norse mythology to die in battle in the snow, or maybe head to ancient Egypt to ride Ray's solar bark across the sky? Smash your most hardcore and wildest thoughts down in the comments section. Let's get our minds blown and have a massive brain collision.